Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with another video. So I hope you're all doing well, but before I get started, I want to give a little bit of an update. Videos are going to be a little sporadic at this time, and I'm not going to be doing face cam videos for a few days because I'm currently dealing with it's either an infection or an allergy and some sort of allergic reaction um, on the right side of my face. I don't know how or why this happened. I haven't eaten anything different or done anything different, at least that I can think of that I'm aware of. But currently, the right side of my face is, in particular, my right cheek, is a bit puffy and very red. So, giving quite a literal, uh, I guess, definition of the term red skin. So, videos are going to be sort of intermittent as I deal with this, I guess you could say illness, technically. And while I have this condition, which I'm hopefully will go away in a few days, I went to the urgent care earlier today and they gave me some antibiotics, so hopefully that will take care of it, especially with the weekend coming up. But until until this goes away, I won't be doing face cam. Now, fortunately, it's not like it's like somehow disfiguring me or anything. I want to be clear. The right side of my face is just slightly puffy and red at this time. It's not like I look like Quasimodo or anything. So it's nothing of that sort. I don't want to alarm anybody, but I do want to just explain why certain things are going to be the way they are for hopefully a few days, hopefully no longer than about a week or so. So hopefully once this goes away, I can get back to doing videos with the camera on me or and whatnot. But until then, I'll be doing videos like this. They'll be either voiceover or something else will be standing in for me. I hope you all understand, and I hope you're all doing well health-wise. So what I wanted to discuss in today's, or rather tonight's video, it's almost 9 o'clock here, almost 9 p.m. in New York City, is the idea of, well, I shouldn't say the idea. What I wanted to discuss is canon and the sanctity of canon and lore, and how, in my opinion, it is incredibly disrespectful when a creator shows complete contempt and disregard for previously established lore. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because actually, I think a day or two ago, I saw a Clownfish TV video where they were talking about Rian Johnson and how he admitted that he wasn't overly interested or concerned about the previous lore and canon of Star Wars. And of course, although I am not a Star Wars fan, I do follow a lot of channels of people who are fans. And I think it's obvious to even a non-fan like myself that the Disney trilogy has really smeared the name of Star Wars and has really disrespected not just Star Wars, but just storytelling in general. I mean, when the hero of your story quite literally steals the name of all the previous heroes, when all the Skywalker line and anybody associated with it is dead, and she takes on the name without any, I would say, justification, right? That's not a character, at least in my opinion, that's not a character carrying on a legacy. That's grave robbing. That is taking a dead family's name. So while I personally am not a big Star Wars fan, excuse me, while I'm not a big Star Wars fan, I do understand where Star Wars fans are coming from because I've seen many franchises and many characters I like needlessly retconned. So, given the video and given what Rian Johnson said, I wanted to just focus on the sanctity of canon, of lore, and how, in my opinion, when a creator just goes and I guess you would say just tosses it out because they don't like it or they don't want to use it or they don't want to be somehow constrained by it, how disrespectful that is. So the reason I chose this image of Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, is particularly the last speech bubble here, where it says that regardless, right now the past is like wet cement. And I actually like that description of the past, or of lore in this case, because lore is a lot like wet cement in that it is not set, right? Lore is not set, or at least generally speaking, it's not set, right? It's not set in stone. Things change all the time. What was once canon becomes decanonized, and what was decanonized becomes canon again, so on and so on and so forth, right? But another reason why the wet cement comparison I think works is because if you literally think about, say, wet cement, right? Think of things like you're walking down a street and you accidentally step in wet cement, or think of something, for example, like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, right? What happens? You literally put your foot or your hands or whatever into this this cement that hasn't set yet, right? So what happens? You quite literally leave an imprint. You leave a mark. And then once that cement eventually dries and becomes solid, what happens? That indentation, that mark, that imprint is always there. And I think that's another part of canon that is true, right? There are certain things that just become, generally speaking, just become set, right? Usually origin stories, for example, become just set. And people understand, okay, this is the origin of this character. For example, we all know that Batman, right, his origin is that his family was, his parents, I should say, was shot to death in an alley, in a crime alley by Joe Chill. And it was this incident that created Batman, right? As is often said in the comics, Bruce's childhood died when he was 8 years old, right? That is set, right? That's the imprint, that's the story. And it's always going to be the story, generally speaking, because that is what is accepted and that is what is established. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because, as many people have noticed in all forms of entertainment, be it movies, comic books, video games, and whatnot, lore is, or rather I should say previously established lore, previously established canon is just casually thrown aside by creators, right? And it's shown great disrespect. Right, and in my opinion, when you have a creator who does that, when you have a creator who just disregards everything that came before, in my opinion, that shows great disrespect, not only to the writers, especially in something like, say, video games or comic books, or especially American comic books, because of the serialized nature and how these stories, never end, right? Batman does not have a final Batman issue, right? There's maybe final issues of certain runs, right? Or certain writers' runs or time on the character, but the story of Batman, right? The comics have not ended yet, and it's been, 80 years about? 80 some years? Same for Superman and other characters, right? Certain characters, very few characters actually, have actually existed for the average lifespan of a human being, right? So you have some of these characters that have quite literally lasted a lifetime. And in my opinion, when you throw out everything that came before, whether it's just disregarding it, as many creatives do, or as Disney did with throwing out the expanded universe, which was like 30 years of novels, you show great disrespect, not just to the creators who came before you, but in my opinion, you also ultimately disrespect the fans, who are the most important people, or at least one of the most important people, or groups of people, I think, in an entertainment medium. And the reason I say this is because it in my opinion, ultimately fans and fan response or fan outrage that determines what is and is not canon. Because if you do deep dive research into the history of several characters, you'll find that the character you know today is usually not the character that was originally proposed, right? They change as people do. For example, there was a time where Superman could not fly. There was a time when Batman killed the criminals he went after. There was a time when Beast of the X-Men was actually quite a horn dog, right? And not the genteel, or is it genteel, well-learned, kind doctor that we associate him with today, right? On TV tropes, this would be called characterization marches on. And the thing is that the reason why characterization marches on is because as writers come and writers go, they try new ideas, right? So I want to be clear. Canon and lore in general is always this dynamic, shifting thing because, especially in like comic books or video games, because people come, people go, people have their own interpretations of things, and especially with comics, American comics in particular, right? There are you have decisions made by other people on high, right, on the powers that be, and frequently, oftentimes, what will happen is that changes will be made or retcons will be made to address issues that another writer brought up or created, or just to erase another writer's work. Let's be honest, creatives are not known for their maturity, and they're not known for being the most adult people, right? There is a pettiness that you have to sort of tolerate when you're dealing with creatives, I think. But I think even then you only tolerate it if the creative is really good at what they do. But anyway, my point is that lore is certainly this ever-shifting thing. And for the most part, it's never truly set. But there are elements of lore, in my opinion, that do become set, right? They do become that wet cement where the impact is made, but then it dries. And now it is set in stone, right? Think of certain things like Batman's origins, Superman's origins, Spider-Man's origins, right? Everybody, even if you've never read a comic book in your life, knows at least the basics of these origin stories. And the reason you do, in my opinion, is because these origins became to be generally accepted by the fans, right? Fans accepted it. Fans said, we like this. And it eventually became established lore and established canon, right? Another one from, say, video games, right, is take the Mortal Kombat series, right? You know, there was this huge hoopla, and I was just as much a part of it as anybody else, about the origin story and the characterization of Queen Sindel being changed from that of a brainwashed woman who was ultimately a good person to now just an out-and-out baddie, right? And the reason why so many people, myself included, were upset was because it didn't just change one element of the character, it changed her entire origin, and it changed her motivations, it changed who she was, and who, as gamers, as people who have played Mortal Kombat for a long time, like myself, had known through the games, right? So when you make a change like that, it's a very big deal because you're basically upending a person's understanding of what this character is and what they're about and what they stand for, you know, and how they came to be. Was it a tragedy that created them? Was it a victory that created them? Right? How did they get here? Why are they here? What do they represent? And when you just throw out canon, especially when you make changes to an origin story, you really, in my opinion, disrespect all the fans that came before, all the fans that said, yes, we like this, we agree with this, we think this is good. And I think that it's just so disrespectful to do that. And I want to be clear, I'm not against the idea of retconning in and of itself. Sometimes it is necessary, right? Sometimes to address maybe a plot point or a plot hole or an issue brought up by a previous writer, right? Or if you're trying to modernize a character, right, you may change certain things, you might retcon certain things to bring the character into the modern day. For example, look at Tony Stark in Iron Man, right? Tony Stark is an industrialist, right? He at least starts out that way. Right? That starts out as a war industrialist, part of the military industrial complex. But the war, if I remember correctly, that he was sort of a part of, or I don't want to say participated in it because he wasn't a soldier, right? But he sold weapons, right? He was basically a weapons dealer. The war that was going on when his story was originally written was, I believe, Vietnam, because I think he's a very 60s character, right? That was sort of the time he was made. And in fact, if I remember correctly, the story goes is that Stan Lee was sort of challenged to create a character that people would kind of dislike, right? But that people would also still find heroic. So he, and no doubt others, ended up creating Tony Stark, right? Iron Man, who in many ways is sort of, at least in my opinion, who in many ways is sort of Marvel's answer to Batman, right? Billionaire playboy, except that in this case, Tony actually enjoys the whole playboy aspect, right? You know, it's known for his mind, right? His mind is his greatest weapon, as he doesn't have supernatural powers, right? He uses a lot of tech, right? They're not necessarily the company equivalent of, right? But I do think that Iron Man does take a lot of inspiration from Batman, right? But the point is that the war he was associated with back then was Vietnam. Of course, especially when you get into the MCU, right? By the time the MCU comes out, it's like, but like the late 2000s, Vietnam's been over for decades. But what's the big war that we're dealing with now, right? The war in the Middle East, right? The war in Afghanistan, the war on terror. So it gets updated and changed to now that's the war he's associated with. So those type of retcons and changes I'm perfectly fine with. What I don't like is like what Rian Johnson did, or what the very big brains at NetherRealm Studios did by just totally retconning for the sake of retconning, because they themselves have prioritized their vision over the fans and over the established work and over the work of everybody else that came prior to them. And I find that type of thing just so disrespectful, because first of all, it's just the height of arrogance to think that you can come in and tell not just one part of a continuing story, but pretty much throw everything out that was before and then tell a better story. Okay? You just got here, right? Whether you are Rian Johnson, or whether you're Jason Aaron, or whether you're the people at NetherRealm Studios, right, the writers there, you just got here. This lore, in many cases, is older than you, depending on what your age is, right? The lore of Star Wars is older than I am, right? The lore of Batman, Superman, the X-Men, all this stuff, older than I am. To me, this is the height of arrogance to think that you can tell a better story than one that's been ongoing for literal decades. So there's that. But then just disrespect everyone and everything that came prior to you because you have a vision. Okay, that's nice, but is your vision good? Does your vision work? Does your vision improve the story somehow? Oftentimes, when you have people who do this, it doesn't. Perfect example is Disney Star Wars. Most people, at least that I have found, and I've seen many a review from professional reviewers to just regular people, and I haven't found too many people who like it. In fact, I found many people who were just going when it first came out, were just losing their minds over how Rey takes on the Skywalker name at the end, despite not being a Skywalker in any what's what I'm looking for? I guess prominent way, right? She's not married to a Skywalker. She isn't the child of a Skywalker. And then when you employ such poor storytelling tropes as, okay, what is it now? That like Palpatine was a clone, and that's how they brought him back. And now, from what I was hearing, that now that big passionate kiss that Rey and Kylo had was now just a friendly kiss. Yeah, sure. And the big kiss at the end of Beauty and the Beast is just a friendly kiss. It's totally platonic. It's totes platonic. Holding on to each other like that. Totally platonic. Right? But when you come in and you think you can tell a better story than one that has existed without you for decades, it's just the height of arrogance. And then you put in these changes that just break the story and make no sense. I'll use Sindel as an example, right? As many people, myself included, pointed out, right? Now you don't know who in the world killed King Gerard. Did Sindel do it? Did Devorah do it? Did Shao Kahn do it? Because everybody's claiming that they murdered him. You have 3 people claiming that they killed one man. And they're all claiming that they did this themselves. Not like, a plot 3 people came up with. No. They're all saying, I killed him. No, I killed him. No, I killed him. Right? It's ridiculous. Or, for example, how in the world did Quan Chi kill Sindel and make it look like a suicide under Khan's nose? Why did he do this? If she was an evil ruler who then murdered her own husband and attached herself as an evil ruler to another evil ruler, right? Why does Kitana still think that she can be saved? Why is she convinced that she's brainwashed or that there's something wrong with her? Why did Quan Chi go through the trouble of murdering the Queen of Edenia, right? Having her soul stored away for 10,000 years, right? Just to bring her back, to break a seal or whatever, bring her back brainwashed. Why do you need to resurrect her brainwashed if she had chosen Khan willingly? She wouldn't be upset about being resurrected then, right? It just causes more questions, and it doesn't provide any satisfying answers because these changes aren't made to explore an idea or to explore maybe a point or like a plot thread that wasn't really addressed by other writers. No, these type of changes are made because the people who make these changes, whether it's Rian Johnson, whether it's Jason Aaron, or whatever, right? They have an agenda, usually one leaning more progressive, but they have an agenda of, we will take usually a female character and we will elevate her, we will improve her, and we'll make her better. But they do so in such a way that they violate character lore, which is why so many people, myself included, are up in arms over She-Hulk. Same with Sindel. Or if it's a new character, like Rey, they forego every traditional storytelling convention and just make them strong without any weaknesses, without any vulnerability, and without any reason why. To the point that it violates the most basic tenets of storytelling, like show, don't tell. Like character growth and progression. When you trade these things for your agenda, guess what? All you've done is just create something that is of very poor quality, that is not going to promote your agenda well, right? People like Ryan Johnson or Tim Miller, they want to blame the fans, or they want to blame fans who, always chant, get woke, go broke whenever a film fails. But there's a reason why they chant this. Because generally speaking, it holds true that when you go woke, when you put in these divisive politics that do nothing to promote your cause or advance or improve the story, yeah, people become disinterested. People are repulsed by it, and therefore people don't buy it. They don't watch it, or if they do, they watch it for free because they sail the seven seas, right? And they don't invest, right? Especially if you want to make money off of being a creator in like comics or movies or whatever, you need a lot of return business. You need people buying thousands upon thousands of issues of a comic just to break even. You need people coming back multiple times. You need thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people coming back for multiple viewings of a film just to make back your budget after you take into account marketing and promotion and individual salaries and all that. These are mediums that are maybe not entirely, but are heavily dependent on the fans, on people liking their product enough to spend their money and be repeat customers on a regular basis. Because being a comic fan isn't cheap. Being a gamer isn't cheap. Even being, say, a movie buff is not cheap, right? It puts pressure on your wallet. So if you want people to take on this financial burden of keeping up with your work, you need to give them work that they actually like and enjoy and can become not just financially invested in, but can become emotionally invested in, which sadly so many creators are putting aside for their woke agenda or whatever you want to call it. And it's sad because you have people like myself and others who just want a good story, especially with characters that we know and we love. And all we're asking for is just, hey, tell me a Logan story. Tell me a Star Wars story. Tell me a She-Hulk story. It's like we're like little kids in a sense. It's like, Mom, Dad, can you tell me my favorite story again? That's all we're really asking for. And yet Hollywood has just gone, oh, who cares? Who cares what you think? Person whose money we need to keep afloat. But anyway, I think I've rambled on about enough, right? The whole point of this is basically that when you disrespect lore, when you disrespect canon, you disrespect the writers who came before you, and you disrespect the fans. And again, I'm not saying that you can never change lore, or that you can never add to it or explore it from a different angle. Of course you can. And you should, right? We want the stories to continue. But there's a difference between continuing the story of Batman or of the Skywalker line or whatever it is, and then just taking everything that existed prior to you and going, I can tell a better tale. Although this franchise has been around longer than you've been alive. Or perhaps just as long, again, depending on age. But anyway, that's the vid. I hope you stuck with me through this. This is very off the cuff and sort of stream of consciousness, but that's how I sometimes do my best work. But anyway, I hope you're all okay. I hope you have a good day or afternoon or evening wherever you are. Be happy, be healthy, be safe, and I guess you'll hear me in the next one until this infection or whatever the hell it is heals. So I will see y'all around. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.